welcome to another special edition, One Shot for Comic Station. We have a special guest today. His name is Jimmie Robinson from Image Comics, and we recently reviewed his 5 Weapons comics, which we will be discussing at the end of this video. Jimmie, let people introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jimmie Robinson, artist, writer for Shadowline, which is a umbrella studio under the Image banner that's ran by Jim Valentino, one of the partners of Image. And hi, how's it going?
All right. So you said you worked for Shadowline, but you also got your start in '94, self-publishing Cyberzone.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, when I got into comics, I just didn't know what to really do, so I just made it up myself. And what I did was create Cyberzone, which I self-published, and just put it out there and basically hand sold it to individual comic stores before I even knew there was a diamond or anything like that. And it was just the science fiction cyberpunk adventures of this lesbian bounty hunter or whatever, and that was pretty much it. And it had a small following, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Ran for 8 issues, and then I just kind of petered off on. I had to end it because I was painting myself into a corner anyway with the writing and all. So, but yeah, that was Cyberzone. That's how I started.
And then shortly after, 2 years later in '96, Image published a spin-off, Amanda and Gunn. Then you got into a few short stories as well, a few more short-run series. Overall theme of your comics so far, I don't want to say theme actually, overall tendency is more towards all ages acceptance. I did see a lot of them were, especially the ones where you wrote yourself or everything, were more aimed towards acceptance by all ages. They weren't overly adult.
Right.
That is except for probably the one most people will recognize you by name, will be for Bomb Queen, which got its start in 2006.
Wow.
So, how did yes.
It's a long time. So, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Personally, I've been getting into comics more and more as I get older, so I miss some of the older, I don't want to say older, I'm only 28, but, so, issues, so it's always good to go back and read some of these. But, how did Bomb Queen get its start?
Yeah, that was a lark. That was just a joke, man. I did it. I never had really truly done superhero, so I thought I'd give a shot at doing some, capes and cowls thing. And no matter how I came up with an idea, I just couldn't find anything original. I found the villain, but I didn't have a hero, and I ended up just dumping the hero and keeping the villain, which was Bomb Queen. And it was just a joke that was for 4 issues. And Valentino bit, he said, yeah, it's great, and all that. And then it kept going. And then that's why it's a series of miniseries, because every time I did a volume, story arc, I thought that would be the end. I'm like, nobody's going to want this anymore. And, here I am almost 30 issues later. So it's just, at a certain point, she got her own legs and started walking. And I just had to keep up with her. It really was weird.
Well, I have to say, some of my favorite comics are not about the hero. So, I think that's very interesting. I like superhero stories that are not necessarily cut and paste.
Right.
I don't like those cookie cutter heroes. They all have their places, but I like Irredeemable is one of my favorites.
Right.
Stuff like that. So I like that personally. All right, so you are on today because we're actually in Comic Station issue number 9, that just recently went up. You released the comic with Image. That issue number 1 came out, and we reviewed it. It was 5 Weapons. This was the number 1 issue. And as I say, besides reading it in the full review, which can be found on frontdoorsgamer.com, thought it was great. It was really fun. It was interesting. I thought you did a really good job of making it all ages. And sometimes when people make it all ages, it tends to seem more towards the teens. And while I thought this was really good for the teens, I also did note that people of older adults could like it as well. One of the interesting facts that stood out to me, especially once I was done reading it, was you're credited as the writer, the artist, and the letterer.
Yeah.
So how did you get to do everything? You basically did this comic.
Well, I've always done my comics since Cyberzone. I've been a one-man army since then. I think there's 2 books that I joined in but did not do everything. T-Runt with Derek McCullough, that's a children's book, and Avagon, also through Image, kind of a manga-esque thing, whatever. Shea Gilson wrote that. But other than that, I've always did the writing, create it, write it, pencil, ink, letter, color. Yeah.
You're a Renaissance man. You're a Renaissance man.
Yeah, well, that's why I like Image Comics so well as a publishing hub, because it allows me to do all that. I do have an editor. God, I need an editor. I do have an editor. Jim Valentino's my publisher at Shadowline and all. So, but he's always just let me run because he knows I can do everything. He's like, Jimmy, what do you got? And I say, I got this. And he said, okay, see you in February. And that's kind of it. and he knows I'll write it. And I give him updates every week or so like that. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. But because of that, I'm not really great at any one thing. I wear so many hats and I've split my pie up so much. I'm not a great writer. I'm not a great artist. I'm, not a great letterer. I just kind of, I've mishmashed it all up enough to get by, and I create a singular kind of package of sorts. But yeah, I've always done it because I always didn't think I had what it takes to be back in the day, a Marvel or DC house style. So I created my own, and that's just how I self-taught myself to do all those different aspects of production. So yeah, that's where it comes from.
So you were saying you have your editor; they let you do what you want. How did 5 Weapons come about? Did you pitch this idea, or did Image come to you with an idea? How did that start?
I just told Valentino I have an idea for another book. That was just kind of it, really. I swear to God, that was it. We talk all the time, and at this point, Valentino and I have a kind of an open relationship of sorts that he trusts me for what I want to do. He still wants to know what it is. I still pitch it to him. But I just kind of said, I'm going to trail off a Bomb Queen for a bit, and I'd like to do something different. And he said, sure, what do you got? And that's kind of a gentleman's agreement right there at the bar, kind of a thing. And Bomb Queen will be back. It's just, since I do so many things at once, it's really hard for me to do multiple books. So to write, draw, ink multiple books. Yeah. So I'm doing 5 Weapons right now. I don't know how long it'll run. Beyond the 5 issues that it's slated for. But I just wanted to try something different. So that's
all right.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea for 5 Weapons?
That came from an old myth of one of the incarnations of the Buddha, which was not coincidentally, it's called Prince 5 Weapons, So, and it kind of talks about, without going through the whole parable or anything, it's about a guy who learns not to use weapons, but instead use his mind for whatever, however you want to read into it, spiritually, a twist, a riddle, or whatever. But if you look up that old myth, that's kind of where it's spun off of, and I really liked it. And it just stuck with me for a while, and it just popped in my head one day. What if I incorporated that into a comic where the hero is completely underarmed against his opponents, completely in every sense of the word. And what would you do, kind of a thing. That's it. And it just took off from there. It's when I have ideas like that, either it comes and stops right away, like, oh, Jimmy, that'll never work, or I could do something, and then there's something, and then there's something, and just ladders up, and I'm like, okay, this can work. And so I have lots of ideas, but not all of them get up to the top of a ladder. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I noticed, obviously, it's obvious. It's a 5-issue limited run.
Mm-hmm.
Title is 5 Weapons. There's 5 schools. And each of the covers that's been released so far has featured one of the presidents of each of the 5 schools.
Right.
Is this first issue centered around the knife? Is each issue going to go through each of the 5 schools, or is that reading too much into the cover?
It's kind of both. I mean, I will explore each club, school, track of learning at the School of 5 Weapons as our hero has to deal with each of the club presidents. But it gets around issue 3, 4, and 5, things start blending and mixing. I didn't want it to be cookie cutter for every issue. Like, he's going to get in trouble, and then he's going to have to figure out his way, and then it's a cliffhanger for the next issue. So it went into a ramping up, like in video games. There's a first boss level, you ramp up, you acquire points, you build your character. Then there's a second boss level, but it's more, it's difficult now. And then there's 2 bosses, and then there's, there's all this, and the quest materials and the side quests and all this stuff. So I'm trying to ramp it up, and it won't be particularly cookie cutter. No, we will see all 5 clubs, but not necessarily in that order. So things are mixing and intertwining.
Yeah, we at Front Towards Gamer definitely know that.
Yeah, well, you're speaking to an ex-gamer.
Definitely know that idea behind all of the games. Right. Last question is, why do you tend to write, besides obviously Bomb Queen, why do you choose to write all ages? Is that, do you let your kids read those? How do you work that? Why did you choose all ages?
I would just like to see more of it on the shelves. When I come up with an idea for a book, it's usually because I'm not seeing that kind of book on the shelf. So it's not, it's when I did a book called Evil and Malice for Image, which was all, very young girls. It was really aimed at young girls because I just didn't see any books out there for girls, comics for girls on the shelf. Same thing with Avagon, same thing with Code Blue. Romance, drama, hospital, ER kind of comics. Same thing with Cyberzone, black, lesbian, bounty hunter, whatever. So, it was just an attempt to do something different. And YA, the young audiences allow me to do that. I get to find that range, and I get to have a lot of fun. So, but mostly it's because I don't see it on the shelf.
Yeah, young adults or all ages tends to be a little underrepresented in the comics. So I like to see those that are outside of that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make it like totally kid. I mean, these kids have weapons. They have knives and guns and stuff. So it's still accessible, but I'm not going down the bloody gore route of Bomb Queen, say, or something like that. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Comic Station.
Right on.
How can people get in contact with you?
I guess Facebook, Twitter, all the social media sites.
JimmieRobinson.com or...
Yes, there is a JimmieRobinson.com, but that website, oh God, it's horrible. It's like 1980s. Well, no, internet wasn't even around, and duh.
Facebook/Jimmie Robinson, at Jimmie Robinson _Robinson, I think is your Twitter.
Twitter, yes, that's correct. Jimmie Robinson. Same thing with Facebook. I've got the name, so Facebook, Jimmie Robinson. It's there. There's an official page as well, but just look me up. I talk everywhere.
Yeah. All right. So can we expect the next issue of 5 Weapons next month, or when's Do you know when the next release is?
Yeah, it's monthly, and it should be out next month. I'm on issue 3 and 4 right now. I'm staying ahead, so the book will be out on time. Issue 2 is already done. I'm working issue 3 and 4. See, there's some stuff. I've got pages. Well, that thing's hardly worked on right there. But yeah, every month for 5 months.
All right.
Right on.
Well, thank you. This has been another one shot for Comic Station. You can find me at Pinisi or funcoresgamer.com. Always posting comic reviews on there. Look forward to the next Comic Station issue number 10 on March 6th, and we'll be having this interview. We'll have a little snippet of this interview in that issue as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. And as usual, please leave comments, subscribe to this site, and look forward to you on the next Comic Station issue or one shot.